wondering how long is it going to take you to become an author? Then this episode is for you. Hi, this is Jyotsna Ramachandran, the founder and CEO of Happy Self Publishing, and in this episode of Author Success Show, we are going to look at what is the ideal timeline to become an author. Now, before I tell you the exact timeline, let me give you a disclaimer. There is no such thing as an exact timeline, but based on my experience of working with hundreds of authors, I have kind of arrived at an average time period that you should allocate for your book project. Firstly, it depends on where you are at right now. Have you already finished writing your book, or are you still at the early stages? It obviously depends on that, and it also depends on how much of your attention can you give towards this book project. Because if you're really able to focus a lot, then the time period is going to become much lesser. So keeping these two things in mind, listen to the rest of this episode. I recommend you to look at your book project as three different phases: the writing phase, the publishing phase, and the marketing phase. You obviously start with the writing phase, but the writing phase in itself comprises of two things: the planning stage and the actual writing. A lot of people directly get started with writing. If you do that, it's going to take you a lot longer than if you have a real good plan, which is followed by the writing. So by planning, what I mean is to have absolute clarity of what should be your book's topic, who is your target reader, how is this book going to help them, arriving at your book's outline, and having chapter-wise mind maps of the entire book. If you have this level of clarity in your planning phase, then the writing becomes a lot easier. So allocate about a week's time to do this planning and then begin to write. Now, for the actual writing phase, if you're writing a book that is about 30,000 words long, you should be able to allocate about 60 hours of your time. Now, how did I arrive at this 60 hours? For an average author, it takes about 1 hour to write 500 words. So if you have to write 30,000 words, it would take you 60 hours. But here's the thing that you should remember. If you're able to allocate only 1 hour of your time every day, then you will probably need 2 months to finish your book. But if you're able to spend 2 hours every day doing this deep focused writing, then you can actually finish your book in a month's time. Now, I have also seen authors who can do this in just 10 days, but those are exceptions because these authors probably shut themselves up in a writer's retreat. They just totally cut all the distractions from the rest of the world and they only focus on writing for 6 hours, 8 hours a day. But that's like an exception, right? So ideally, have about 30 days to 60 days for your writing phase. Moving to the publishing phase. In the publishing phase, you should spend time in getting the cover design done, in getting your book edited well, in doing the interior design, that is the formatting, and all of those things to make your book really look good. Typically, a good editor would take about 30 days to edit a 30,000 word manuscript. You will find editors who will promise that they can edit it in a weekend and stuff like that, but please remember, the quality of your book depends on the quality of your editing. So work with experienced professional editors who take their time but do a good job. And for cover design, you will probably have to spend another 2 weeks, and then for the final interior design, give another 2 weeks. So roughly give yourself 2 months in the publishing phase. And finally, in the marketing phase, you will have to do a lot of things. Again, it depends on where you are at right now. If you already have a website, then you don't have to spend your time doing that. But if you don't have one, I highly recommend that you get an author website designed, get your book trailer done, get your media kit ready, spend time in building your launch team, engage with your launch team, get the reviews for your book during the launch, do a lot of promotions to get that bestseller tag for your book, and then spend your time in giving a lot of interviews because you want to continuously promote your book to a larger audience. Now, if you notice, marketing phase doesn't have an exact timeline because maybe for the initial setup of doing all these initial stuff before the launch, it would take you about a month. But then marketing is an ongoing activity. Every month you want to go on a bunch of podcasts, you want to appear in front of other people's audiences in promoting your book. So that's an ongoing process. It never stops. So keeping all this in mind, my recommendation is give yourself 3 to 6 months time to write, publish, and market your book. Now I'm going to give you some bonus tips. If you want to cut down this 6 months to 3 months, then here are the 3 things that you should be doing to do this at a lot faster pace. Tip number 1, make your book project your number one priority, at least for the next 3 months. Because when you do that, you're going to give all your time and attention to the book project. You're not going to be launching a new webinar. You're not going to be creating your new course. So you're not going to be having your other distractions. You can do that later, but just focus on your book project. The second tip is please do not get into analysis paralysis. A lot of authors do this. They are not happy with their topic. They keep thinking of better topics for years. They keep rereading their manuscript before even giving to the editor for months. And they keep going around to shortlist 20 different designers to finally finalize one. So I think that's a lot of wastage of your time. I do understand that you want your book to be world class, but there is nothing called perfect. You will always look at reasons to improve your book. So do not get into this mindset of making the book perfect. Just focus on what best you can do at this point of time and then move to the next step. And the third tip that I want to give you is please do consider working with a publishing agency. Because if you have to do everything yourself, you have to run from pillar to post, trying to look for the best people to work with, and that can waste a lot of your time. But if you work with an agency, they are going to take off a lot of the tasks from your plate, thereby saving your time, and they may also do a lot of things simultaneously. For example, at Happy Self Publishing, we actually do the book cover design while the author is still writing the book. We sometimes do the book trailer while the editing is going on, and therefore the process becomes a lot faster. So let me just recap the 3 tips quickly. Firstly, make your book project your number one focus and priority. Number 2, do not get into analysis paralysis. And number 3, please do work with a book publishing agency. So I hope this episode has given you enough clarity on how much time to budget for your entire book project. I would love to know what are your thoughts. If you have any questions or any other idea that you want to share with me, please do leave them in the comments. I make sure that I read every single comment and I reply. So please do that. And also, I have a lot of other episodes that you might have probably missed. For example, if you're right at the starting stage, you might want to check out this video on the one thing that you need to become an author this year. And there is this other fantastic video on the daily habits of super successful authors. So if you want to catch up on all those episodes that you've missed, make sure you subscribe to Author Success Show, both in the YouTube channel as well as the podcast. Until I see you in the next episode, happy authoring.